Welcome to Julie's Yard and Garden. Today we'll be in my potting shed. I'm going to be transplanting a basil plant that I started in my AeroGarden. Come on in, let's see what I've got. Here is the little basil plant that I had started in my AeroGarden. I took it out of there and I actually put it into some water so that the roots would be able to stay moist. So I have that. I have some of my worm castings right here. I have some potting soil right there. And I have several little containers. Now, I am a big proponent of, hey, use what you have. And so I saved this from a plant that I bought last year. If you don't have something like that, if you have just an old sour cream container, can really be anything depending on the size of plant. Just make sure that, like this one, you can put holes in the bottom of whatever containers you've got. This one, I've already put a hole in, and it can be just as easy as taking a pencil or something kind of sharp and pushing it through the bottom. And there you've got a drain hole. I'm actually going to put a couple holes in the bottom of this container. I think I'm just going to put 4 in there. Whoops. Gonna make that a little bit bigger. If you want to make it a little bit bigger, just kind of keep pressing the pencil in just a little bit further. And I'm losing the cover on my pencil. Alright, there we go. Here I've got some worm castings, so I'm going to add some of the potting soil that I have right here. I'll just put all of it in with the worm castings. And then I'm just going to mix them up. Before we're going to plant this, I'm going to add some of the water in here to make sure that the soil is moist before we actually plant the basil in it. I'm just giving that a good mix. And I don't want my soil soaking wet. Make it a little bit too hard to work with. But that feels about right. You can kind of clump it together and it'll stay together, but it falls apart. Again, you can pick it up and squeeze it and kind of make it form a ball. That's about the moisture consistency that I use. So I will take my container again, whether it's one that you have saved for yourself, because it saves you a lot of money. You can buy a whole bunch of things from the big box stores. You end up just spending a lot of money. So you can use what you've got around again, or something maybe that you have saved or salvaged. So I'm just going to add the soil about halfway. And the reason I'm doing that is because when I need to have at least this much depth in there so that I can actually plant the basil plant down in. Now again, this basil plant was originally grown in an AeroGarden. Not a sponsor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start separating these roots so that I don't have to necessarily cut them all off. I could cut quite a big chunk of them off. Some of these are going to break. There we go. These are kind of folded up on themselves. And I feel like I'm untangling my girl's hair. There we go. And I'm going to try and separate them by sections here. Just kind of work, there we go. Just kind of work this out just a little tiny bit. Again, separate the roots a little bit more. And there will be some roots that are lost. I know some of these are, there we go. So now we have our basil plant. One thing that I've noticed with other things that I've planted that I started in the AeroGarden is they are not used to being in soil. They're used to being directly in water. So I do have to keep them a lot more moist than I normally would, just to start off with, until they can get those roots growing and used to the soil. So I'm just going to stand this little basil plant up in the pot, and then I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to put some of this soil mixture just around the basil plant. I'm actually going to save this little cage. I'll rinse it off and we'll grow something else in it later because there's no reason to throw it away. So there we go. So, and I'm actually pressing on the soil just a little tiny bit to help those roots feel like they're nice and snug in the pot. And there you have it. What I will do is water this for another couple weeks, make sure that it's doing okay in the pot, and then I will transplant it. It was just getting, I thought, too big to stay in the AeroGarden, and I'll be able to start other things in there now that this is big enough. And in a couple weeks after I know that this is doing well in the soil, then I will go ahead and plant it directly in my garden. Don't forget to grow something you love, just have fun with it. See you later.